Somewhere between the 1st century and the 21st, we made a trade we were never fully aware of. We traded food that worked for food that lasted. We traded the olive pressed the morning it was needed for the shelf-stable bottle sitting in a warehouse for 18 months. We traded the whole grain soaked overnight for the refined flour engineered to maximize shelf life. And then we started wondering why our bodies were aging faster, accumulating chronic inflammation like interest on a debt we never understood we were taking on. The dietary patterns described across biblical texts map with remarkable precision onto what modern nutritional science now calls the most anti-inflammatory, longevity-supporting dietary pattern ever documented. The Mediterranean dietary pattern, drawing directly from the biblical food culture of the ancient Near East, has been associated in hundreds of randomized controlled trials with dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, cancer, and all-cause mortality. The science arrived late to a conclusion the ancient world had already encoded in its daily meals.
Today, we are walking through 20 of those foods, specific named foods from biblical and ancient Near Eastern tradition that modern science has confirmed carry documented anti-aging compounds at the cellular level. Pay close attention to number 1. The compound it contains crosses the blood-brain barrier and reduces oxidative stress in neural tissue, a property most dietary antioxidants simply do not possess. And when we reach number 10, the food discussed there appears in the most emotionally charged food moment in all of Scripture, and its biochemistry turns out to describe cellular restoration after depletion with precision no ancient writer could have understood. This content is for educational and historical purposes only. Please consult a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns.
Number 20. Walnuts. The Song of Songs contains the Hebrew word agos, the dominant cultivated nut of the ancient Near East. Persian physician Ibn Sina documented walnuts specifically for brain disorders and cognitive decline. Greek physician Dioscorides documented it for kidney and digestive conditions. Traditional Chinese medicine documented it for brain health. 3 unconnected medical traditions, the same organ affinities, the same food. Walnuts are the only common nut with significant alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid, at approximately 2.5 grams per ounce. They contain elagitannins, metabolized by gut bacteria into urolithins, compounds being studied for mitochondrial maintenance and cellular aging, with results researchers describe as genuinely significant. The WAHA trial, published in 2020, followed over 600 adults for 2 years and found daily walnut consumption reduced LDL cholesterol and the concentration of small, dense LDL particles, the most atherogenic variety. The thin, bitter brown skin on the walnut kernel contains the highest polyphenol concentration. That skin is where the medicine concentrates. 1 ounce daily, whole and raw, skin intact.
Number 19. Flaxseed. Isaiah 42:3 references pishta, flax, in a passage about gentle restoration. Hippocrates prescribed flaxseed for inflammation. Charlemagne passed laws requiring his subjects to consume it. Islamic, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman medicine all documented it for the same overlapping conditions across 4,000 years. Flax seeds are the richest known dietary source of lignans, polyphenolic compounds converted by gut bacteria into enterolactone and enterodiol, which modulate estrogen receptor activity and are studied extensively in longevity research. A meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials found flaxseed consumption associated with significant reductions in total cholesterol, LDL, and fasting blood glucose. The soluble mucilage fiber forms a gel in the digestive tract that slows glucose absorption. The critical preparation detail: flax seeds must be ground before consumption. Whole seeds pass through intact. Grind what you need each morning and consume immediately. Ground flaxseed oxidizes within hours at room temperature.
Number 18. Black cumin oil. Nigella sativa appears in Isaiah 28:25 and in Egyptian tombs, including Tutankhamun's. The Prophet Muhammad is recorded as saying that black seed is a cure for every disease except death. Arabic medicine documented it comprehensively for over 1,000 years. The primary active compound, thymoquinone, has demonstrated anti-inflammatory activity through multiple simultaneous pathways, antioxidant effects superior to vitamin E in certain models, and immunomodulatory properties attracting significant pharmaceutical interest. Clinical trials have shown black seed oil supplementation produces meaningful reductions in blood pressure, fasting blood glucose, HbA1c, total cholesterol, and LDL in study populations. 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed black seed oil daily, taken directly or mixed with raw honey. Number 17. Sesame. Sesame oil was pressed in Mesopotamia as early as 3000 BCE and appears in ancient Egyptian records as both food and medicine. Traditional Ayurvedic medicine considers sesame one of the most important oils for longevity. The Talmud references it in multiple contexts. Sesame contains sesamin and sesamelin, lignans with documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. Studies have shown regular sesame consumption lowers blood pressure through vasodilatory mechanisms, improves lipid profiles, and provides antioxidant activity in circulation. Sesame also contains methionine, the sulfur-containing essential amino acid that completes the protein profile of grain-based foods when combined. 2 tablespoons of raw tahini daily on whole grain flatbread or stirred into warm broth.
Number 16. Capers. The caper bush appears in Ecclesiastes 12:5 in a passage about aging associated with the vigor of youth. Capers contain quercetin at concentrations among the highest of any measured food source, alongside rutin, camphorol, and vitamin K2. Quercetin has been the subject of hundreds of clinical studies demonstrating anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties through multiple pathways, including inhibition of the NF-kappa B inflammatory signaling cascade, directly implicated in chronic disease and accelerated biological aging. The plant the ancient world associated with youthful vigor was carrying the anti-aging chemistry modern research keeps returning to. 2 to 3 tablespoons weekly as a condiment with fish, legumes, or vegetables.
Number 15. Carob. The carob pod appears in the parable of the prodigal son in Luke 15:16 as the food of desolation. The pods were so consistently uniform in weight, they were used as the original unit of measurement for gold and gemstones, giving us the word carat. Traditional Arabic medicine documented carob for digestive conditions and respiratory illness. Carob contains tannins with documented antimicrobial properties, alongside pinnitol, a cyclotol compound with studied insulin-sensitizing effects. Research has shown pinnitol reduces blood glucose levels and improves insulin sensitivity. The pod fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria with a prebiotic profile researchers describe as distinct from other common fiber sources. Carob is naturally sweet, with no caffeine, no theobromine, and a glycemic impact substantially lower than refined sweeteners. Use carob powder stirred into warm water or nut butter as a daily preparation. Number 14. Sumac. Sumac appears throughout the culinary tradition of the ancient Near East as ordinary as salt at the ancient table. Roman soldiers used it as a souring agent before lemons were widely available. Traditional Arabic medicine prescribed it for digestive conditions, fever, and inflammatory joint conditions. Sumac berries contain gallic acid and ellagic acid, alongside anthocyanins at concentrations comparable to blueberries. Gallic acid has demonstrated in laboratory research the ability to inhibit biofilm formation by pathogenic bacteria and reduce lipid peroxidation, a primary driver of cellular aging. a clinical trial found sumac supplementation significantly reduced fasting blood glucose and HbA1c in type 2 diabetic patients, with effect sizes researchers describe as clinically meaningful. 1 tablespoon of ground sumac over salads, roasted vegetables, or dissolved in warm water as a daily tonic.
Number 13. Millet. Ezekiel 4:9 contains one of the most specific grain preparation instructions in all of Scripture, naming millet explicitly in a formula for a nutritionally complete survival bread. Millet was a staple grain across ancient Israel, Egypt, and the Near East for thousands of years. It contains significant magnesium, phosphorus, and B vitamins alongside serotonin-regulating tryptophan at concentrations higher than most other grains. It is naturally gluten-free, with a glycemic index substantially lower than refined wheat or white rice. Research has shown millet improves postprandial blood glucose response and supports beneficial gut bacteria through its resistant starch content. Cook whole millet grains slowly in broth, finished with olive oil as a porridge base.
Number 12. Spelt. Ezekiel's bread formula in chapter 4:9 includes spelt, also referenced in Exodus 9:32, where it survives the plague of hail when lesser crops do not. Spelt is one of the oldest cultivated grains on Earth, with 28 chromosomes compared to modern commodity wheat's 42. Its gluten structure is fundamentally different, more water-soluble, and significantly more digestible. Spelt is higher in protein, iron, zinc, and magnesium per serving than modern commodity wheat. Many people who experience significant digestive reactions to modern wheat tolerate properly prepared spelt without difficulty. Soak spelt berries overnight, discard the soaking water, and slow cook as a porridge or grind into flour for sourdough preparation. Number 11. Raw olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is referenced over 140 times in biblical scripture. In Luke 10, the Good Samaritan pours it into wounds alongside wine, presenting it not as exceptional care, but as competent care. The physician Luke was describing a wound treatment protocol. The primary anti-aging compound, oleocanthal, inhibits COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes by precisely the same mechanism as ibuprofen. Chronic systemic inflammation is the primary driver of biological aging. A daily food that suppresses it through the same pathway as a pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory without gastrointestinal side effects is not a minor finding. Olive oil also contains hydroxytyrosol, one of the most potent naturally occurring antioxidants in any food, with documented ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. 2 tablespoons daily, cold or at low heat, from early harvest cold-pressed unfiltered oil in dark glass with a harvest date. Number 10. Lentils. Genesis 25. Esau returns from the fields famished and physically depleted from hard labor. Jacob is cooking red lentil stew. Esau trades his birthright for a bowl. That is not impulsiveness. That is a body in acute depletion, sending the clearest possible signal about what it needs. Lentils are among the oldest cultivated crops on Earth, a staple across ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Mesopotamia simultaneously. A single cooked cup contains approximately 18 grams of protein, alongside 16 grams of fiber. The Blue Zone's research on centenarian populations found legumes to be the single most universal dietary commonality across every long-lived population studied on Earth. Lentils contain folate, critical for DNA repair, iron for oxygen transport, and resistant starch that feeds the gut bacteria whose metabolic byproducts regulate systemic inflammation. Soak lentils 8 to 12 hours before cooking. Discard the soaking water. Slow cook with cumin and olive oil.
Number 9. Onions. Numbers 11:5 records the Israelites mourning by name the onions of Egypt. The pyramid builders at Giza were partially paid in onions as formal wage.
Onions are among the richest dietary sources of quercetin and inulin-type fructans, prebiotic fibers that selectively feed bifidobacterium and lactobacillus species, the foundational strains of a healthy gut ecosystem whose diversity is now understood as one of the most consistent markers of longevity. The outer papery brown skin, discarded in every modern kitchen, contains the highest quercetin concentration in the entire onion. Simmer clean, dry onion skins in water for 20 minutes and use that liquid as a cooking base. Cook whole onions slowly in extra virgin olive oil, where quercetin absorption increases substantially compared to onions eaten without fat.
Number 8. Leeks. Numbers 11:5 places leeks alongside onions and garlic in the foods mourned by name in the wilderness. Leeks were cultivated in ancient Egypt for at least 4,000 years. Traditional Greek, Roman, and Arabic medicine documented them for respiratory conditions, digestive complaints, and vitality. Leeks contain camphorol, a flavonoid with documented anti-inflammatory and anti-carcinogenic properties in laboratory research and epidemiological associations with reduced cardiovascular mortality in population studies. They contain allicin precursor compounds from the allium family, alongside vitamin K at concentrations supporting bone density and vascular health. Braise leeks slowly in olive oil and broth until completely tender, finishing with lemon juice.
Number 7. Almonds. When God instructs Moses on the construction of the menorah in Exodus 25, the cups are shaped like almond blossoms. When Aaron's rod buds overnight in Numbers 17, it produces specifically almonds. The almond tree flowers first in spring, while every other tree remains dormant. 1 ounce provides approximately 37% of daily vitamin E in alpha-tocopherol form, the fat-soluble antioxidant that embeds in cell membranes and acts as the primary defense against lipid peroxidation, directly implicated in cardiovascular disease and accelerated cellular aging. Almonds are among the most reliable whole food sources of magnesium, whose deficiency is directly associated with anxiety, impaired sleep, elevated blood pressure, and accelerated biological aging. The brown papery skin on a whole almond contains polyphenols with prebiotic properties. Blanched almonds lose this entire fraction. 1 ounce daily, whole, raw, skin intact.
Number 6. Figs. The fig tree is one of the most frequently referenced plants in biblical scripture. Adam and Eve use fig leaves. The Promised Land is described as a land of figs. And in 2 Kings chapter 20, the prophet Isaiah prescribes a cake of figs applied to King Hezekiah's infected wound. He recovers and lives 15 additional years. Figs contain phycin, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down dead and damaged tissue, debriding a wound biologically from the inside out, the same action modern wound care uses enzymatic agents to achieve clinically. Internally, figs are one of the most mineral-dense fruits in any traditional diet. Their calcium content is unusually high for a fruit. They contain soluble pectin fiber, potassium, magnesium, iron, and B vitamins in a combination that constituted something close to a complete daily nutritional intervention in a world without supplements. 3 to 4 dried figs daily.
Number 5. Pomegranate. The pillars of Solomon's temple were decorated with 200 carved pomegranates. The hem of the high priest's robe was embroidered with alternating pomegranate figures. It is among the 7 sacred foods of Deuteronomy. Ancient Egyptians buried them with the dead. Greek tradition associated them with immortality. Ayurvedic medicine used them in longevity practices for thousands of years. The active compounds, punicalagins, are metabolized by gut bacteria into urolithins, compounds with consistent anti-inflammatory effects in clinical studies and measurable mitochondrial protective properties. Urolithins have demonstrated in laboratory research the ability to selectively clear damaged mitochondria through mitophagy, with implications for muscle aging and cellular longevity that researchers describe as genuinely significant. Eat the A rules whole. The urolithins are produced by gut bacteria, whose diversity determines how much of this anti-aging activity you actually receive.
Number 4. Grapes and raisins. The grapevine is among the most symbolically rich plants in biblical narrative. Noah plants a vineyard immediately after the flood. The promised land is confirmed by the enormous grape cluster the spies carry back from Canaan. Jesus calls himself the true vine in John 15. Grapes contain resveratrol in the skin, a polyphenol studied for its activation of sirtuins, proteins associated with cellular longevity and DNA repair. They contain quercetin and catechins, alongside tartaric acid, malic acid, and potassium, supporting cardiovascular function. Raisins concentrate the polyphenol content and provide boron, a trace mineral important for bone density and cognitive function that is chronically underconsumed in modern diets. A handful of raisins, alongside raw cheese or nuts as the ancient world consumed them, or fresh grapes eaten with the skins where the resveratrol concentrates.
Number 3. Fish from clean waters. The feeding of the 5,000 in John chapter 6 uses 2 small fish alongside barley loaves. After the resurrection, Jesus prepares grilled fish on the shore for his disciples in John 21. Fish is the protein of the New Testament. The fish of the Sea of Galilee are among the richest sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. DHA constitutes a significant portion of the structural fat in brain cell membranes. Its deficiency correlates directly with accelerated cognitive aging and increased neuroinflammation. The research on omega-3 fatty acids is among the most robust in all of nutritional science, with associations between regular fatty fish consumption and dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease, depression, and cognitive decline that researchers describe as among the most reliable findings in the entire field. 2 to 3 servings weekly of small, cold-water fatty fish, sardines, mackerel, or wild-caught salmon, grilled simply.
Number 2. Honey. A land flowing with milk and honey. Proverbs 24:13 says, "Eat honey, for it is good." Jonathan eats honey from a forest floor, and his eyes brightened. Not merely sweetness, restoration. In Egyptian tombs dating back over 3,000 years, sealed honey jars have been found still edible. No other food has ever been found with that stability. Raw honey contains glucose oxidase, producing hydrogen peroxide on contact with tissue, one mechanism of its potent antimicrobial action. It contains defensin-1, a protein that actively destroys bacterial cell walls, including MRSA strains. Every one of these active properties is destroyed by heating above 40 degrees Celsius. The clear, perfectly liquid honey in most grocery stores has been processed into a fundamentally different substance. 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered honey, possibly cloudy, possibly crystallized, in warm but never hot water each morning.
Number 1. Olive oil. Olive oil is referenced more than 140 times across biblical scripture and sits at the center of the most rigorously studied dietary pattern in the history of nutritional science. Kings were anointed with it, wounds were dressed with it, the menorah burned on it exclusively. The Mediterranean dietary pattern has been examined in hundreds of randomized controlled trials and consistently associated with dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, and all-cause mortality. The primary anti-aging compound, oleocanthal, operates through the same biochemical COX inhibitory pathway as ibuprofen in reducing inflammation. Chronic systemic inflammation is the primary driver of biological aging at the cellular level. A daily food that suppresses it through the same pathway as a pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory, without the gastrointestinal damage, is not a footnote, it is the centerpiece. Olive oil also contains hydroxytyrosol, with the documented ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and reduce oxidative stress in neural tissue. Most dietary antioxidants cannot reach neural tissue.
This one can. Early harvest, cold-pressed, unfiltered extra virgin olive oil in dark glass with a verifiable harvest date. The best versions are deeply green, peppery, and bitter. That pepper is the oleocanthal. 2 tablespoons daily. The ancient world poured it over everything. Study after study keeps arriving at the same conclusion. They were right.